Several subscribers have asked me to do a video on the cribbing used to hold the timbers or the saw ponies. Since I'm going to need some more for myself, I'm going to go ahead and walk you through the process of building those. I've got a way of doing it that takes minimal time, minimal tools and material, and I'll share that with you today. Here's an example of what we're going to be building. The reason for these is when carrying the load of these big timbers, you need something that's very strong and lightweight and compact, and this really fits the bill. You can make this entire thing here out of a 4-foot piece of 2x8 and a piece of scrap plywood. See right here the amount of weight that I've got stacked up on 2 of these, and it's pretty significant, and they're so strong that you're just not going to have to worry about it. So we are going to make 6 more of these today. What I've chosen to make these with is a 2x8, 8 foot long, and the reason being is if you have a miter saw like this one, I always buy 12-inch saws, that way you can cut up to 8-inch material. It might be a little bit better to go with a 12-inch, it gives you a little bit more of a platform. However, I have to turn it and cut from 2 sides, and I don't like the inconvenience of that. And I can cut through an 8-inch piece of material with 1 cut with my saw. What I've got set up here on the chop saw is a 2x8 just from Home Depot, about $4.50, and we're going to be able to get 2 complete cribs out of this, or 2 saw ponies out of the 8-footer with a little bit of scrap plywood. So I'll mark these out and we'll start making all of our cuts. With our 8-foot 2x8 in place, we're going to first cut our 2 12-inch tops. Most guys don't know how to work efficiently. I see a lot of guys that jump around and kind of wasting time, and they'll start cutting and then change their saw and keep cutting. The key to productivity when you're working or building is to, if you're doing a particular task, finish those all at once. So for example, I'm cutting the tops. I can get 2 tops out of each 8 foot. So what I'll do is I'll set that aside, and since I'm doing 3 pairs, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to take all my 2x8s and I'm going to cut all 6 of those tops right now, set them aside. Then I'll go back with the 6 foot remaining, and then I'll set my angles, and I don't have to continue changing the angle of my saw and messing around. I can be a lot more efficient this way. Six tops cut, I'll go over and start cutting the legs. The legs for the saw ponies are going to need to be cut at an angle. So set your chop saw at 20 degrees. This will be about the perfect angle, and we'll make the cuts. Starting with the 8-footers, we've cut the 2 12-foot tops out, 2 12-inch tops out of it. That leaves us with the remaining 6 foot. So go ahead and find your 3-foot mark and make your first cut. What I'll do here is cut my first leg, and what you want it to come out to is you got your 20-degree angle on both ends, and from long point to short point you want that to be 1'4" or 16 inches. Once I get this perfect, I'm going to put a T on this. This is going to be my template. It's important to be sure that you use the same one when you're transferring markings, because as you cut you'll get a little bit off, and if you're just using random legs, before you know it you'll be a 1/4 inch off. So put the T on there, and always use that to lay out the rest of the legs. Here I'll take my template, flush up the ends, and make my mark. And when I'm cutting, I'm going to actually cut right on the mark. Alright, we've got all our tops, 6 tops and 12 legs cut, stacked up here ready to go with the 20-degree angle on both ends. And what do we got? 30 minutes into this or so. We've got $15 into material so far. So this is actually, really a good little way to build a really sturdy little sawhorse. Next, we're going to build the plywood gussets. And you don't have to get carried away. You could use OSB board, whatever you've got laying around the house. Just any type of a sheet product, plywood is going to be sufficient. So let's go ahead and get those cut and lay them out. Alright, we're going to go ahead and lay out and cut our gussets. Now just keep in mind, try to be as efficient as you can when you're working. If you set your hands to do something and you get your tools out to do it, get everything done. Do all of your layout at one time. Don't lay out one strip, put your tools down, cut it, pick up your tape measure, your square, lay out the next one, cut it. Do all your layout at one time. Kind of think as far ahead as you can. So you don't need very much plywood. You can see this small little piece of scrap siding I have left over from building the shop is enough to do all of the gussets for our saw ponies today. So what we've got to do is we've got to rip 7-inch strips. Each individual gusset is essentially going to be 7 inches by 10 inches. So we'll rip 4 7-inch strips out of here and then we'll trim them to length. So when you're doing layout like this, take your square and go ahead and pull off your first 7 inches. And then 14, but don't forget to compensate for the curve for the thickness of the saw blade. If you measure 7 inches and then measure 14, you're going to be an inch shy or a 1/16 shy on your next thickness. So on your second cut, we're going to add a 1/16 to compensate for the saw blade. And then we're going to go to 21, we're going to add an 1/8, and then we're going to go to 28, and we're going to add 3/16. And the same here. 7, 14 and 1/16, 21 and an 1/8, and 28 and 3/16, compensating for the curve. And then we'll take our square and connect our lines. Alright, with all of our sheet product here, the 7-inch strips ripped, we're going to stack these all up, and once again to save time, we're going to go ahead and cut these all at one time. And I'll cut these at a 7-degree angle, and I'll show you why once we nail them together. It just gives it, aesthetically, just makes it look a little bit nicer. Alright, all our cuts are done. Here we have our 12 gussets, our 12 legs, and our 6 tops. And just, as an example, just to prove the point how much quicker it is to give a little bit of thought to layout, we cut all of those gussets with 4 cuts rather than laying out each one individually and wasting a lot of time. I have 45 minutes into this and all the materials cut. Now we can focus on assembly. If you do it correctly, then it'll have a really strong, shear-wise, it'll be very strong. So flip it over, and then center your next side, and we know that we have a 1-inch reveal on each side. Next thing we're going to want to do before we install the legs is to mark the center at 6 inches on 2 points, or both sides. And flush it up to the center. Make sure we're sitting flat on the top, and let's put a nail in it. We'll take our next leg, bring it up, flush it to the bottom, to the top piece, the top, and put 1 nail in it. Now, before we nail any more, we want to be sure that we get these legs sitting true and flat on our workbench. Take a small level, be sure that the top is level, and then go ahead and nail it. 1 nail per leg. Alright, now we can verify that we have a good solid base. We don't have any wobble, our angles are correctly. We can go ahead and finish off the nailing. The correct nailing pattern for these, you're going to want 3 on the top, and 3 on each leg. there you have it. About $20 worth of material, an hour and a half, 2 hours of time, and we got 3 sets, 2 of the ponies. It's a really good design, really cheap to build, and a good project, not just for timber framing, but for step stools or whatever. You can also adapt these and of course change the legs different heights if you'd like, but that's it. So I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next one.